everyone, and welcome to the Thru Recovery Life podcast. Today, we have Miss Ruby, who is in Canada. She is going to share her experience, strength, and hope with us and tell us what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Without further ado, I give you Miss Ruby. Okay, all yours, Miss Ruby.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruby. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. So my story starts, I was born in Winnipeg, but I grew up in South America, Paraguay. Um, my family was extremely Christian. We lived in a strict Mennonite community. And the school and everything was very Christian. When I was in my teen years, I started having very bad depression. And in the town that we were in, they didn't believe in mental health or anything. The only thing, if you had a problem with alcohol, with mental health or anything, the first thing they jumped to is that you were possessed. So I had quite a few exorcisms done on me because to get rid of my demons, I guess. And when that didn't work and I was still depressed, I thought that God must really hate me, that I was being punished, that I was bad. And I remember starting having that belief as a child that whenever something bad happened, that God was punishing me, because that's how we were raised. That's what we were taught, right? So when I was 18, we moved from Paraguay to Canada, and that was quite a big jump. In Paraguay, my dad was very abusive, very controlling over me. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I couldn't go for sleepovers. He isolated me. So when we came to Canada, I was 18 and I moved out, and I thought I had found freedom. I started partying heavy. I got into drugs, and we all know how that goes. And that went downhill pretty quick. And I got pregnant. And I stopped everything, and things were going really good after I had my daughter. And then when I was about 26, my daughter was 6 years old, I started dating someone who was in a recovery house, and I thought this was my true love. This was it. I let him move in, and it went really bad, really fast. He was very abusive towards me and my daughter. He was constantly cheating on me and stealing money from me to go use and lying about it. And I finally kicked him out, had to call the police to kick him out. And then I had made friends with a couple other guys from the recovery house, and they called me up one night and said, "You want to party?" And I said no. Anyway, I let them come over, and I ended up doing coke again. And so all three of them got kicked out of the recovery house and moved in with me and my daughter, and things got really bad. I started getting into crystal meth and started having all sorts of unhealthy people around my daughter. She was 6 years old at the time. I would leave her with strangers just so I could go pick up, didn't care what people did around her as long as I could get my next fix, right? I remember I came to a point where I was feeling so desperate and I wanted to stop, and I couldn't stop on my own. So I asked my family for help, and they helped me. And I remember bringing my daughter to my mom's house, and she would sit on the couch and look at the TV with just a blank stare in her face, like her soul was gone from everything that she had witnessed, right? So I went to treatment, and I got a year sober, and then I relapsed. And I did that 4 times where I would get a year sober and I would relapse. And every single time when I relapsed, the reason for my relapse was I either had resentments that I wasn't dealing with, or I wasn't working my program, and I thought I was unique, I was different than all of you, and that I could still use, right? That I could control it. And I tried very hard. I tried very many different ways. I was convinced I was going to find a way to control my drinking and using, but it just didn't work. So, um, my last relapse was my worst one. And I remember my daughter was she was 10 at this time. She was in the living room. I was in the bedroom doing drugs with my friend. And I remember lying there just in so much pain and desperate, wanting to get out of it, not being able to, and remember screaming out to my higher power in my head, if you will help me out of here, I will do my best to stay sober. And I haven't picked up since. I went to treatment, and a month after treatment, I ended up in the hospital on life support. I had double pneumonia. That was quite an experience for me. When I got to treatment, I thought, I don't need a higher power. I got this. I can do this on my own. I don't need anybody else. And then when I was on steps, it was we were going through the steps at the treatment center, and when I was on step 3, I remember praying, "Teach me how to completely surrender." And when I went to the hospital with pneumonia, um, I, I, I couldn't breathe, and I had such trouble breathing, and they were about to intubate me and put me in an induced coma. And I remember thinking, I thought I was going to die because it felt like it. And I was convinced I was going to die. And I was just fighting with my higher power and saying, don't let me die. Don't let me die. Just give me one more chance to make good memories with my daughter. And I just kept feeling this voice, just surrender, just surrender. I will take care of her. And then when I finally surrendered, I got this amazing peace that just washed over me. And I knew that whatever would happen, things would be okay. And they put me in a coma, and things got really bad. I almost died. And then when I woke up, I felt like a new person. I had found this faith um, that shook my soul. Um, like I really had a spiritual awakening, and I dove into recovery. I gave it everything. I wanted to make sure that I work on everything I can um, to get my daughter back, right? So I did everything different than what I used to, what I did before my relapses. When I would relapse before, I would take some time and then fully dive back into full-time work, not taking care of myself. So I changed everything around. I took time off work. I went to treatment, and then I went to the second stage house, and I was there for a couple of months. And I just took time to work on myself, and it was really, really good. I was able to get rid of a lot of unhealthy behaviors and learn new behaviors and new coping mechanisms. And I remember one time thinking if I had any reservations, and one of my reservations was, if my daughter or somebody in my family dies, that will be it. That will probably take me out. And I remember thinking, I have to work on that, because if that actually happens, I need to have a plan in place that will keep me sober. So I worked on that, and I don't know how many months after it was. Anyways, it was in 2016. My 13-year-old niece was stabbed to death in her school. She was sitting doing homework in the front foyer of her school, and a stranger walked off the street and stabbed her 14 times. That was one of the heaviest things I ever had to go through. And drinking and using only crossed my mind once. And I cannot take the credit for that, because that was my higher power. Sure, it was the work I had put in before and that I reached out for supports, but that for me was a true miracle that I made it through that. And yeah, so one thing that I have learned in my recovery, what I need to do is I need to deal with my feelings as they come and not try to push them away, because I found it's not just drugs and alcohol that I can use to numb my feelings and avoid dealing with things. I can use relationships, shopping, food, money, anything that will distract me. It was about a little while ago. Last year, I started putting my recovery on the back burner again, and I didn't do much for it at all. I thought, I started thinking again, I have this amount of clean time. I got this. I don't need any help, I'll be good. And that went downhill very, very fast. I came to a crossroads, and I was like, I can either go on this way, stuffing my feelings, avoiding everything, or I can deal with this and go through the pain and feel everything, because I was a huge codependent person and used relationships to fill the void inside of me and make myself feel better, and totally turned away. I'm a very, very spiritual person, and I wasn't practicing any of my spiritual practices. So I decided to, take the hard road and muddle through the pain. So I really let it all in and let myself feel it and walk through it. And it was extremely excruciating, painful. I felt like all the past relationships that I held on to, all the attachments were being removed, and I was healing myself, and I got to a place where I was able to learn to love myself and accept myself the way I am, and come to a place of total and complete surrender and accept my higher power's will. And, because I still have this quiet thought in the back of my mind that my higher power doesn't have the best interest in mind for me. So I've been retraining my mind, and I dove back into my spirituality, and I dove back into AA, and I'm so amazed every time what happens when we surrender to this program. I have been filled with so much serenity and so much peace, and I have the passionate back again. And I struggle so much with loving myself, but I know if I stick around the rooms, there's ladies there who have learned to love themselves. And if I stick around, I'm going to learn it too. And people are going to love me until I can love myself, right? So this program has saved my life more than once, and I am eternally grateful. Thank you, everybody, for letting me share my story.
Thank you for taking the time. What time is it where you are right now?
7.
So, thank you for doing this. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.